there. Well, the recipe that I'm going to share with you today is not really one of my favorite recipes, but it's my favorite type of food, which I love this recipe. But it is chicken fajita nachos, okay? Nachos is like one of my all-time favorite things. You can do all different kinds of nachos. You can do them even with barbecue and slaw and beans. Those are delicious. But today, we're gonna talk about chicken fajita nachos. Now, chicken fajitas are delicious where you put them in the flour tortillas, but this is just gonna be a really quick and easy version that just takes no time at all to prepare. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get my burner going. Put it on low right now because I'm gonna be talking and getting stuff together. I am gonna cut up 2 peppers. I've already cut up the red pepper. So now I'm gonna just cut up the orange pepper. Get my little trash bowl over here. We're gonna cut that up. You can use any color of pepper that you want, okay? This is just the peppers that I had in my fridge, and I am not a fan of green pepper. And you might say, well, it's all peppers, they all taste the same, but they don't. I love the red and the orange and the yellow, but the green ones, I just don't like them. So I'm gonna slice this up. And you wanna kind of slice these pretty thin, okay, because we're gonna they're gonna cook up, and we don't want them to be these huge big pieces on our nachos. So you do want to do them kind of thin. Let me do a couple of these a little bit more. Okay, and let's do this one. There's something about peppers. They're so good for you. And when you can eat them raw or you can cook them. But when you cook them, man, there's just this sweetness that comes out in them that is so good if you like peppers. Okay, here's our peppers. Now, we are going to cut up an onion. And what we're gonna do with this onion, we're gonna just slice this. Let me get my little trash bowl here. We are doing a garden this year, so we are keeping, a compost pile. So I try to save all this kind of stuff. Like I've said before in some of my other videos, I am from Texas. I was born in Texas. I call Tennessee home though, because I have lived in Tennessee for a long time. It's the longest I've ever lived anywhere. We moved around a lot when I was younger. So Tennessee is home to me. But I was born in Texas and lived in Texas off and on a lot of different times. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and slice these. Mexican food is just like second nature to me. I absolutely love it. I think I could probably eat it every day and I wouldn't get tired of it. Okay, slicing the onion up. And then what we're gonna do is get our skillet going again. Then I'm gonna add about, a tablespoon or 2. Just kind of depends. I don't really measure it. I just put it in there. I'm using avocado oil. You could use coconut oil. You could use olive oil, whatever you like. We're gonna let that heat up a little bit, and we're gonna just add our pepper and our onion, and we're gonna let this cook probably for about 5 minutes or so. Gonna let this cook a little bit now. I am gonna season it some. We always want to season every layer. Okay, so I'm gonna wipe my hands off. Got a little bit of salt. Salt and pepper is about all I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna add some other seasonings in a minute. May throw a little bit of garlic powder in there. We'll do a little bit of garlic powder. All right, we're gonna toss that around. Okay, We're just gonna let that cook for a little bit. Woo! Oh my goodness. Here comes the smells. I wish I could share it with you. But if you get in your kitchen and you get cooking it, then you're gonna smell it. Okay. Got that stirred up good. We're just gonna let that sit and cook a minute. So we've got our peppers and our onions just about ready because you wanted to get them a little bit tender. You don't want them to be mushy, and so I think they're just about perfect. Now, as you can see here, I have put a little another little board on my wooden cutting board to protect it from the chicken, because we're going to slice up the chicken and put the chicken in this pan and cook the chicken. We're going to just cut this into like 1-inch strips, you know, just like if you've had chicken fajitas before in a restaurant. Just kind of like a bite-sized piece. I have 2 chicken breasts here, and they're pretty thin. I love to do the thin because they cook so much quicker. They're just easier and they cook a lot quicker. Okay, so now I touch the chicken with this hand, not this hand. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take out all of this goodness. I'm going to wash my hands. Wash my hands. Okay, now we are going to take out this goodness. I'm going to turn that off for a minute. And we're going to just pour it right into this bowl. And we're just going to let this kind of set aside for a minute. Okay? Leave the spoon in there. Let's put this back on. Now what we're going to do is we are going to add a little bit more oil. Whoops, it would help if I turned the lid or took the lid off of it. We'll add a little bit more oil. Okay. Also, this calls for a fajita seasoning, okay? So if you want to buy the fajita seasoning that's already done up in packages, that is perfectly fine. I usually just mix up my own. I love to do my own seasonings. So I mixed up some. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add a little bit of water to this oil. Okay? And I'm going to put 2 tablespoons. Actually, I'm going to just do 1 tablespoon right now. I'm going to sprinkle about a tablespoon of seasoning in the skillet. And I'll tell you what that is in just a minute. And now, I'm going to add these chicken strips in and let them cook with that seasoning in the skillet. Okay. You kind of want to separate them a little bit as you put them in there. Don't just like pile them all in one big lump in there. Separate them a little bit. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. That fajita seasoning. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. It smells delicious. Okay. Now, I'm going to sprinkle. I did not put salt or pepper in my seasoning. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And I'm just going to kind of let it sit there for a minute on that side before I start moving it around. I do want to move it around good and get all of that goodness on it. I'll probably add just a tad bit more water to loosen up those bits in the skillet so that our chicken can soak all of that goodness up. So, to let you know how I did the seasoning, what I did was, to make it easy, I just add 1 teaspoon, actually I did 2 teaspoons for this, but equal amounts except for 1 ingredient. So 2 teaspoons of this ancho chili powder. Okay, I did 2 teaspoons of the garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of coriander, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 1 teaspoon of ground oregano, And then I did not quite a whole teaspoon of cayenne pepper. That's in there also. As I said, I did not put salt and pepper in there. I just do that as I go. Okay, so let's turn this chicken over. Looking good. Smelling delicious. They do have fajita seasoning in a packet. And like I said, please feel free, if that's what you choose to do, go ahead. But I kind of have a thing about making my own. I like to do it. Okay, I'm adding just a tad bit more water. What this is going to do, it's going to break up these pieces that are on the skillet, okay? And also, it's going to do a little steam effect on our chicken. So it's going to keep our chicken nice and moist and juicy. Nothing like having some dried chicken. Okay, so we're going to kind of let that simmer a little bit. That's cooked just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my other tablespoon. We've got a little water in there, little liquid. So I'm going to go ahead and add my other tablespoon. And this may seem like a lot, but you really want it to have that good fajita flavor. So, yes, we are adding another tablespoon to our chicken. We're going to let that finish cooking, and if it starts to dry out, just add a little bit more water to that because you don't want it to get dry. This smells absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can't even describe it. It makes me hungry. Okay, let that cook a little bit. Okay, our chicken is getting to the point where I'm going to probably just kind of turn it off and let it sit for a minute. It's looking really good. It's smelling really good. And you know, all in all, probably you're going to cook this chicken, I would say anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes, okay? Kind of depends on the thickness, how big your strips are. You just want to make sure there's no pink left in it, okay? You want it cooked till it's white. So I'm about to that point. I'm going to add just a tad bit more water to get a little bit more of that goodness. You don't want to add too much water because you want to not weaken that flavor that you worked so hard to get. But I'm going to turn this off, let this cook for a little bit while I get my other ingredients ready. As you can see, I've changed out my little plastic cutting board again because I wanted to grate some cheese, and my board was a little bit wet. So I traded that out. Now what I'm going to do is I put our chicken in a little bowl, set that aside. Now I'm going to grate up about, I don't know, around a half a cup of Monterey Jack cheese. Okay, we're going to grate that up. A lot of times I like that. I like to mix some cheeses together instead of using the same kind. If that's all you have in your fridge is just the cheddar, then by all means, or just the Monterey Jack, it doesn't really matter. But if you have them both, it's good to, I like to mix it up and not just use the one kind of cheese. Get my little workout here. Okay, so there's some cheese. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice up. Totally optional here. If you are a person that does not like heat, then you can just skip this part. But I'm going to go ahead. Now, when you cook jalapeno peppers, it takes a little bit of the heat out of them. When you eat them raw or when you eat them pickled, they are a lot hotter. When you cook them, it does tame them down a little bit, but they're still hot. So you use the jalapeno peppers however you would like to. You can just put a few, you can put a ton or none, whatever you would like. I went ahead and sliced all this. I don't know that I'll use all this. We'll see. I may put a little bit more on half because Kyle really loves them. I just like a little. I can't take all that heat. I did spray it lightly with some spray just because the cheese and everything is going to get melted and I don't want it to stick really bad. So what we're going to do is take our nachos. This is about 4 cups of nachos, okay? Take them and you want to spread them out really good. So what we're going to do now is we are going to add our vegetables. And you know me, I like to just use my hands. I hope they're not too hot. No. So I'm going to sprinkle these vegetables on here. This is going to be so good. And you know, you might think, oh, that's kind of a lot for 2 people, but it's nachos. You know, it's not a whole lot here. And if we don't eat them all at supper time, I have a feeling that somebody might snack on them later. So I don't think they're going to be wasted. So we've got that. Let's put our chicken on there. You want to be careful, you know, space your chicken out good to where you're going to get some in most of your bites. Make sure it's not all piled up in one place. That's why I really just like to use my fingers, because that way I can place it wherever I want it. All right, that's looking pretty good. That chicken is so tender, I can just pinch it in half. That's a good sign. Okay, so we've got the chicken in there. Now I'm going to add the cheese. Let's add the cheese. Oh, and by the way, I have my broiler heating up. I turned my broiler on, so it is getting hot because that's what we're going to do next. We are going to take this and we are going to put it under the broiler. And it's only going to take about 5 to 7, I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm not going to say because everybody's stove is different. You be the judge, but don't go off and leave it. You definitely want to stay there and watch it because it will not take it long and you don't want all this deliciousness to burn. Look how pretty this is before I stick it in the oven, okay? Look at that. I am going to add a tad bit more cheese. See, that's another reason why it's awesome to cook at home, because you know what? I want a little bit more cheese. I can add a little bit more cheese. I'm going to add a little bit more cheese to this before I stick it in the broiler, but I think you can see that. Look how beautiful that is. And what I was saying, started to say was, the reason we're going to put it in the broiler instead of just in the oven is because it is already cooked. We don't want to dry out the chicken, so we want something, quick heat that's going to melt this cheese, but it's also going to crisp up these tortilla chips because we do not want those soggy. That's why we're going to stick it in the broiler. Okay, pull these out of the oven and look how beautiful. Don't these look delicious? Look how fresh that looks. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to eat these. Now, you know what? We're having these for just a quick supper. We're going somewhere tonight, and so I just wanted to have something really quick, not really, heavy, because I didn't want to be really stuffed full when we left. So we're having these for supper. But you could do them for supper, you could do them for a party, you could do them for really whatever you want. Appetizers sometime, depending on what meal you're having. So there's lots of ways that you can eat them. You can just have them for lunch, whatever. But we are fixing to have them for supper. So I'm going to, while I was waiting on that cooking, I went ahead and sliced up some lettuce. So I'm going to put some lettuce on top of them and also some homemade salsa. I had some in the fridge. So, homemade, store-bought, whatever you have. Some salsa, and you also normally we put sour cream, but I'm out of sour cream. I can't believe it. I'm out of sour cream. So no sour cream tonight, but they're still going to be delicious. Look at this freshness. Fresh salsa. Oh my gosh, this is so good. I wish you could sit down and eat with us. Okay, and there you have it. Chicken fajita nachos. Okay, I'm ready.